NFL draft nerds, welcome in. It is a very exciting day. The top 18 picks for the 2025 NFL draft. The draft order is set for those top 18 now that the regular season is over in the books. Of course, teams can trade up, they can move up, they can move down, they can do all sorts of different things within this top 18. But these top 18 picks are now set in stone unless there is a trade, which means it's a very exciting mock draft here today. We finally have some clear, rock solid information on where each of these teams is picking, and there has been a lot of movement over the last couple weeks. So I'm fired up to get into this first round mock draft for the 2025 NFL draft now that the top 18 is set, right? So really appreciate y'all tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. It is all draft all the time. Let me know who you want your favorite team to select in the first round in the comment section below. So without further ado, let's get it started here. And I want to remind y'all, this is going to be completely predictive. And now that we are in the mode of draft season where we know where teams are picking, we kind of have gotten some clarity on the direction of a lot of teams, whether they're hiring a new head coach, what they see as their issues, all these different things. So this is going to be fully predictive. I'm trying to nail these picks. I'm trying to get these right. This is not what I would do. This is what I think these teams will do. So with the first overall pick, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. I think they will take a quarterback. They clearly indicated that they were not very confident in what Will Levis was giving them. Brian Callahan's going to want to go get his guy. I think the Titans will look at Shedeur Sanders and his ability to play in rhythm, to throw accurately, to make good decisions. Yes, there is some development needed. No, he's not the best athlete with the biggest arm out there, but I think Shedeur Sanders can run a Brian Callahan offense. I think that he can run a spread style offense and do it effectively. Now, is he ever going to be a top 5 quarterback in the NFL, a top 10 quarterback even? Maybe not, right? I don't know that you have that physical ability. But I think you can easily find a starting caliber quarterback in Shedeur Sanders, maybe even a plus starter in Shedeur, and develop around him. They've been working on the offensive line. They've got a lot of talent throughout this roster. You drop in Shedeur Sanders, maybe you can get competitive quickly. I wouldn't do this in this spot. I don't think Shedeur Sanders or Cam Ward, quite frankly, are worthy of top selections, but I think that's exactly what's going to happen. And speaking of Cam Ward, now that Sanders is off the board, I think the Browns say, hey, we have got to go get our quarterback of the future, or at least take a swing here. This is not the best draft to need a quarterback at the top, but I think that the Browns, out of desperation, Deshaun Watson's Achilles injury not getting any better, his play on the field not getting any better. Cam Ward does offer some enticing upside. He's got athleticism. He's got a live arm. He can throw from all these different odd platforms. He's a playmaker. He's got to develop from within the pocket. He's got to develop more of an NFL passing game. But the tools are there to be a quality starter in this league who's a playmaker with a good amount of variance, because you see a lot of turnovers, you see a lot of questionable decision making, but you also see somebody who can bring an exciting product to the field. Again, that would not be what I'm doing, but I look at those two teams. They are quarterback needy. They're at the top of the draft. I think you're looking at quarterback there for both football teams. Now, the New York Giants, if Drew Aller decides to change his mind, I think Drew Aller would be in play at all 3 of these spots. But the Giants also need a quarterback. They might not be able to get one, right? You look at the quarterbacks on the board. Jalen Milroe, are you going to take him all the way up at 3? I don't think you can do that with his you want to talk about Cam Ward being raw as a passer. Jalen Milroe, I know he draws comparisons to Anthony Richardson. Richardson was a better pure passer than Jalen Milroe is at this point. So I don't think you can look at Carson Beck. None of these guys make sense here. So maybe the Giants have to go the route of bringing in a veteran stopgap, right? And if that's the case, best player available, they need a corner. Travis Hunter makes a lot of sense in that regard. You pair him up with what you have in Drew Phillips. I don't know what's going to happen with Deonte Banks. Did not have a very good year, but you need a number 1 corner. Travis Hunter can be that for you without question. New England Patriots, They're going to go Abdul Carter here, in my opinion. They've got to go get themselves a top-flight edge rusher. Yes, they need help at offensive tackle, but there's not an offensive tackle on the board that can do for you what Abdul Carter can. Like, this is a blue-chip prospect at edge. He is unbelievable. His explosiveness off the ball, his bend, his violence, and then his development with his hands over the course of this year, transferring over from being a full-time off-ball linebacker to being on the ball edge rusher, edge defender. I think Abdul Carter is just going to be a game changer at the NFL level, and the Patriots are going to get themselves a gem there. The Jacksonville Jaguars, they could go Mason Graham. I would not be against that pick. Will Johnson, though, they've got a desperate need at cornerback opposite Tyson Campbell. Will Johnson has more prototypical traits, in my opinion. Trent Baalke is sticking around in Jacksonville, it looks like, and Will Johnson kind of fits his draft mold more than Mason Graham. Mason Graham might not have the best arm length out there. You know, if Trent Baalke's taking somebody in the top 5 that's going to be on the offensive or defensive line, they've got to have elite length and elite tools. I don't know that Mason Graham has that length. Will Johnson, though, is a prototypical player at the cornerback position, a big need for the Jacksonville Jaguars. The Las Vegas Raiders here. They're also a quarterback needy team. They could use a lot, quite frankly, to kind of get this ball rolling. And you don't know if Max Crosby wants out. A lot of interesting decisions to be made for the Raiders. We don't know exactly the direction that they're going to be going in this offseason. But I think if I was them, I would love to pair up Mason Graham with Christian Wilkins, with Max Crosby, if you can keep him there, and build a dominant defensive front. Yes, there's needs across the board, but I think that Mason Graham, adding him to that defensive line, again, gives you the ability to have a dominant superpower. I know addressing needs is what most fans want to do at the top. I think free agency is more so for the needs, whereas the draft should be, just getting the best possible players. And I think Mason Graham at this point will be the best player. I think that would be the pick for the Las Vegas Raiders. New York Jets. And again, the Raiders are hard to peg because you don't know exactly how that situation is going to change over the course of the offseason. New York Jets, they need a lot. They could have gone Mason Graham, certainly. I think you look at edge, obviously, you've got Abdul Carter off the board. Michael Williams is an absolute freak as well. This is a guy that at 6'5", 265, 270 pounds has insane length. If the Jaguars had needed an edge rusher, I absolutely would have pegged Michael Williams for that spot. Trent Baalke would love this guy. Elite run defender already. I think you saw some development as a pass rusher with those hands throughout the course of the season. I think Michael Williams would be certainly in line to go in the top 10 looking at this NFL draft and going to the New York Jets there. Carolina Panthers, they need edge as well. Would you replace Brian Burns with James Pierce Jr., who brings a fairly similar skill set? I think Pierce Jr. has a little bit more dynamic athleticism and explosiveness and power coming out than Brian Burns did, and I think that he absolutely deserves to go this high in the draft. I think you could also look at adding Tedero McMillan or Luther Burden to really help out what you've got going with Bryce Young. I personally think Ashton Jennings belongs in this conversation as well. I know that they drafted Jonathan Brooks, but he's dealt with back-to-back knee injuries. You extended Chuba Hubbard, but you need more than one running back, right? Ashton Jennings could be that lead back with Chuba coming in and being the change of pace. I think that would be a fair use of the resources and potentially just make that offense unstoppable. But I also think adding a Tedero McMillan could do the same thing for Bryce Young and help develop your young quarterback. No pun intended there. So we'll go T-Mac here. I think that would be a lot of fun for the Carolina Panthers. And I think that's a direction they would look in. New Orleans Saints, they need edge. Michael Williams would have been a fit for them. I think Nick Scorton is a fit for them. Mickey Loomis is still there. They value these big physical edge rushers. Nick Scorton's a fit, but so is Shamar Stewart. I think Stewart at 290 plus pounds really fits that mold. He's got great length, physicality, run defender. I think Shamar Stewart would be the pick for the New Orleans Saints there. Chicago Bears, they've got to get offensive line help. And, Will Campbell, I view him as a guard. I also view Kelvin Banks as a guard. He's a little bit further down my board personally. I think Will Campbell does belong in this range as a guard interior player. Whether you're going to try him out at tackle or plug him in at guard, I think helping support Caleb Williams with that offensive line makes sense. And to me, Will Campbell's the best offensive lineman available. So that's where I have the Bears going. San Francisco 49ers. I think looking at what they need in an offensive lineman, the athleticism that Trent Williams brings to the field, I think Josh Simmons, even though he's coming off the knee injury, he just screams San Francisco 49ers to me. I think I'm not going to compare him to Trent Williams. I'm not going to say he's going to have the type of career that Trent Williams has. But when you look at this physical prototype, Josh Simmons is absolutely that. So San Francisco 49ers going to get their tackle of the future, and I think you can plug him in at right tackle. And it's not like he's going to be out for the entire year. He probably should be ready for the start of the season. Dallas Cowboys, yes, everybody wants to plug in Ashton Jennings there. To me, I think a wide receiver makes a lot more sense for them. And again, this is predictive, not what I would do. I would have taken Jennings already. He would be off the board. But I think Luther Burden would be fantastic complement to what they have offensively. He, a yak guy, contested catch guy, physical. I think he can run every route, even though Missouri didn't ask him to do that. He has the physical ability to be a great route runner. I just love his game, and I think you want to help support Dak Prescott, support this offense. Getting Luther Burden in there would be a huge boon for them. Luther Burden also would be a fit in Miami, but at this time, they don't need receiver. We'll see what happens with Tyreek Hill. Now, they need offensive tackle help. They also need safety. And Malachi Starks is a blue-chip prospect. I just think this lines up too easily. Slots in too easily, predictably. With Javon Holland set to hit free agency, Malachi Starks plugging in there, a great football player out of Georgia. Indianapolis Colts could have also used him. And Gus Bradley did get fired last night, somewhat surprisingly. I think that they kind of figured somebody has to answer for this poor season. It's going to be Gus Bradley. Nick Manwari, I don't view him this highly. I do think he could be a first-round pick. Looking at tight end, though, their second biggest need according to NFL Mock Draft database. And yeah, I think that Tyler Warren would be so exciting for this run game. You talk about Anthony Richardson, Jonathan Taylor. Tyler Warren can line up in the backfield as well and pound the rock. He can line up at Y tight end, F, H back, get him the ball in so many different ways. I think Shane Steichen could have a really good time featuring him in that offense and adding another blue chip prospect to the mix there. Atlanta Falcons, they need an edge rusher. James Pierce Jr. is still on the board. This would be a perfect fit for them. Finally getting that edge rusher that Falcons fans have craved for so long. James Pierce Jr. is so explosive, has good length, better run defender than a lot of people give him credit for because he's not the biggest guy out there. But I think of all these pass rushers that have come off the board, he might have the most potential outside of Abdul Carter to really be that 15 to 20 sack type of guy in the NFL. Arizona Cardinals, they need edge. They need defensive line. I look at who's available on the board. I love Kenneth Grant, Walter Nolan, Derek Harmon, Tyleek Williams. I think all of these guys would make sense for them in this spot, and I think that's the direction we're going to go. Ultimately, I think Walter Nolan will shoot up the boards the most out of this group because of his insane athleticism, his length, his prototypical build, and his pedigree. He was number one overall prospect, recruit coming out of high school a couple years ago. So Walter Nolan to the Arizona Cardinals there. Bengals need edge help. They need defensive line help. I think you improve the spine of that defense the most with Kenneth Grant, who can just be a stabilizing force on the interior, more of a nose tech gap eater type of player, one tech playing in the A gap a lot, but he has some explosiveness and flexibility that's rare for a guy that's 340 pounds. I think he can also help you push the pocket. So that would be a nice fit for them. Seattle Seahawks, they can use offensive line help, no doubt about it. I think Kelvin Banks is sliding here. Where will he come off the board? I'm not sure, but I'm not going to have him to the Seattle Seahawks here. I'm actually going to send Josh Connerly to the Seahawks. I think Out of all the players outside of Josh Simmons in this class at tackle, he has the most prototypical traits when it comes to just protecting the passer. Living in a right now, the Seahawks kind of have a vertical passing attack. Obviously, Ryan Grubb was fired, their offensive coordinator, so we'll see what happens there. But as long as Geno's still there, which we don't know for sure, I do think Josh Connerly makes a lot of sense for them. Kelvin Banks, certainly the Texans need some offensive line help. Maybe they could view him as a guy they could plug in at guard and also potentially play tackle long term. That could make sense for the Texans. I could certainly see that fit. Could also see them go in defensive line with a Tyleik Williams or Derek Harmon. Yeah, we'll plug in Kelvin Banks to the Texans there. Denver Broncos, Colston Loveland's still on the board. Yeah, that's just such an easy fit in a Sean Payton offense. Great receiving tight end, length, very nimble, very athletic, solid hands, good route runner, Colston Loveland. To the Denver Broncos. Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they could use edge. They could use line. Could Jalen Walker be that fit? Nah. To me, Jalen Walker has been a little bit overhyped this draft cycle. I think that he just is not a great linebacker. He's not a great edge rusher. Is there potential for more with his athletic ability, with his intensity he brings to the field? Absolutely. I think Jalen Walker can be a good football player. But Nick Scorton we have going to the Buccaneers here. It's a fit I like quite a bit. Scorton just has insane flexibility and explosiveness at his size and very productive pass rusher the last couple years. I think he put on a little bit too much weight going over to Texas A&M this past year, but he's going to have a big NFL career in my opinion. Pittsburgh Steelers, they could use corner, no doubt about it. Siobhan Revell still on the board. I think had he not injured his knee, Revell would probably be a top 10 pick in this NFL draft, and I would not be surprised if Trent Baalke was interested in Revell in the top 10 if, again, the knee injury had not happened. So Siobhan Revell out of East Carolina coming off the board to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Los Angeles Rams, yeah. As much fun as Genty would be there, and he would be unbelievable. They've got a nice stable of running backs already. And I think that Cameron Williams is just such a fun fit in Los Angeles because you look at the nastiness, the beef they have on the interior. Adding Cameron Williams, who's a 330-plus pound guy. He's an athlete. Yes, there's refinement needed in the pass game and run game, but his just natural physical ability and his physicality, the strength that he brings to the field, I think that complements that run game a lot in Los Angeles. I would like that fit. Green Bay, they need corner, defensive line. At this spot, I don't know that there's a corner that screams Green Bay here. I think Darian Porter will rise up draft boards, and he's an unbelievable athlete with great length. But I could certainly see them going Tyleik Williams, who great athlete at his size. He was playing close to 230 pounds this year, but he is so disruptive at the point of attack, both against the run and as a pass rusher. I love his game. I think that'd be a fit for the Green Bay Packers. Los Angeles Chargers. A lot of different directions they could go here. Obviously, the top two tight ends are off the board. They would have liked Kenneth Grant as well if he was available. But Derek Harmon is a nice consolation prize. You're starting to see this run on these big interior defensive linemen. Harmon is a stout run defender, 310 pounds, good length. I think that he's able to stack and shed. He's able to kind of keep offensive linemen off of his body with that length and read really well what's going on in front of him. He's also a good pass rusher. So Derek Harmon to the Los Angeles Chargers, that's a good fit for me. And yeah, is this the spot where Ashton Jennings comes off the board, and maybe he could have gone to the Chargers as well. The tough thing about Ashton Jennings in this running back class is it's an amazing running back class. It really is. And so realistically, will he probably fall this far? No, I think some team will take him, but it's difficult to figure out who. But at this spot, we've got to go Ashton Jennings. No doubt about it. Him is assuming Cliff Kingsbury is still there designing that run game. It would be a match made in heaven. And the Baltimore Ravens, they could use an offensive tackle. They could use an interior offensive lineman. I think that Tyler Booker would be a perfect fit for them just from a physicality standpoint. And also when you look at his mental makeup, like he plays like a Raven. That's an easy pick for me. Assuming Brian Flores is still there, doesn't get a head coaching job, Azareye'h Thomas, I think he's going to shoot up draft boards. Such a physical corner. You can press him up at the line of scrimmage. I think that that's a world that Brian Flores would like to live in moving forward a little bit. Love his length. I think he has good hip flexibility for someone who's like 6'2", 6'3", with great length and physicality. His press tech is unparalleled in this class, in my opinion. Now, Buffalo Bills, obviously they could use some help up front. I don't think we're taking a defensive lineman at this spot. Alfred Collins needs to come off the board at some point, right? He's an incredible run defender, but he doesn't give you much as a pass rusher right now. This is a tough spot. I think Princely Umanmielen deserves more love than he gets, and I think he'd be a great fit for them as well. He's got, close to 260 pounds, 255 pounds, incredible length. Every pass rush move you could ask for, as a inside spin counter that's absolutely devastating. I think that he could be a real good fit for them and can also play the run. Philadelphia Eagles, yeah, why not go get Jalen Walker? They like to get these Georgia Bulldog players that fall down the board to them. That's a fit. Kansas City Chiefs. Are they going to go offensive tackle? Could they go Ursary? I could see that. I could also see them surprising with a pick that maybe not everybody's expecting at this spot. I think Armand Membu, and they have him as an interior offensive lineman here. I have him as a tackle. He plays right tackle for Missouri, 20 years old, fantastic year. He's got great athleticism, was really clean all year. And I think Marcus Mbo could be in play for them as well, who played right tackle for Purdue this past year. And he's got unbelievable athleticism and physical upside. And I think that you see the developing hand usage. You see the snatch trap. You see one-hand stab, two-hand stab. Like he's got a lot of different techniques. He just kind of needs to refine when he's trying to get to them, when he needs to be aggressive, when he needs to be a little bit more passive and let the rush come to him. But Marcus Mbo would be a ton of fun for them at 31, and I think has the upside to be a dominant offensive tackle in pass protection. Detroit Lions. Where are we going to go here for the Detroit Lions? Landon Jackson would be interesting. I think Tuimolo and Sawyer, they could certainly fit from the way they play the game standpoint. I just don't know that either of them brings the most juice. Boy, Alfred Collins would do some wonders for their interior defensive line, their run defense. Omar Norman Lott is super explosive off the ball. Deone Walker, his tape is just too inconsistent for me to consider here. He does not play like a Lion. He's not a knee biter, right? And they could certainly address the interior of their offensive line. They've got some guys that are up there in age. They lost Jonah Jackson this past year. Wow, Emeka Egbuka still on the board. Probably, definitely should not be. Could they just take Emeka Egbuka and have... I don't know if they can do that with Amon-Ra St. Brown and Jamison Williams and Sam Laporta and Jahmyr Gibbs as your top pass catchers. You really don't need another pass catcher. Obviously, their offensive tackles up there in age. This is a difficult one to peg here for the Detroit Lions. I think Savanea makes sense. I do. That's where we'll go. Continuing to fortify the trenches up front on that offensive line makes a lot of sense. He's been playing right tackle for Arizona. Plug him in at guard, and you can prosper there with continuing to be able to move people in that run game. So I do not like Emeka Ibuka not coming off the board, but that's kind of how this one went. Not a lot of wide receivers came off, and I think you would see a really big run on receiver pretty early in the second round there. Shedeur Sanders to the Titans at 1, Cam Ward to the Browns at 2, Travis Hunter to the Giants at 3, Abdul Carter to the Patriots at 4, Will Johnson to the Jaguars, Mason Graham to the Raiders, Michael Williams to the Jets, T-Mac, Tedero McMillan to the Panthers, Shamar Stewart to the Saints, Will Campbell to the Bears, Josh Simmons to the San Francisco 49ers, Luther Burden to the Dallas Cowboys, Malachi Starks to the Miami Dolphins, Tyler Warren to the Colts, James Pierce Jr., the Falcons finally get that edge rusher. Walter Nolan to the Cardinals. Kenneth Grant to the Bengals. Josh Connerly. By the way, Bengals, shame on you for firing Big Lou Anarumo. I think he's going to be a fantastic defensive coordinator somewhere else. Josh Connerly to the Seattle Seahawks. Kelvin Banks to the Texans. Colson Loveland to the Broncos. Nick Scorton to the Buccaneers. Siobhan Ravel to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Cam Williams to the Los Angeles Rams, one of my favorite fits. Tyler Williams to the Packers, another great fit. Harmon to the Chargers. Ashton Jennings to the Commanders. What a steal that would be. Tyler Booker to the Baltimore Ravens. Azareye'h Thomas to the Minnesota Vikings. Princely Umami-Yellen to Buffalo. Jalen Walker to the Eagles. Marcus Mbo to the Kansas City Chiefs. And Jonas Savanea to Detroit. Thank you all so much for tuning in. If you enjoy the content, please like and subscribe. Let me know about what you think about your team's pick in the first round here in the comment section below. Y'all have a good one.